When you work in tech at Cox, you get to do meaningful work every day. You get to be the biker who codes as fast as he rides, crafting advanced tech solutions that transform car buying. Or a guitarist who develops harmonious apps and websites, connecting people and businesses, all in real time. A savvy soccer mom running solution sets as passionately as she runs gameplays. Be the super secret keeper, designing cybersecurity systems to protect private data and websites. A planet protector, expanding EV battery life and inventing more ways to build a better future for all. When you work in tech at Cox, you get to do career-defining work that solves the greatest problems of our time. Join us and connect to work that improves lives, including yours. Learn more about our family of businesses at cox.career/tech.
An aqua dam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The coffer dam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an aqua dam can do the job. An aqua dam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An aqua dam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An aqua dam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aqua Dam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. Well, good evening, and welcome to the show. Welcome to the Opperman Report. Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You could find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting through my website, emailrevealer.com. You can just email me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. I got a lot of new content we just put up on Patreon the past week, so check out that. Let me see if I can pull some of that up right now for you real quick. Just went up was the Joe Green, the tinfoil hat not included. We put that up commercial free. Previous interview I did with Greg Palast. That's up there, ad free too as well. An interview with Kevin Blatt, who is the sex tape broker. That's in the, I guess, the $5 section. You know, it's one of those locked. What is it? You know, it's one of those exclusive content just for the patrons. David K. Johnson, one of my interviews with him, ad-free. Megan Walsh, the most recent one, ad-free. Philip Fairbanks, one of his interviews about his book that is heavily censored. And, what do you call it? So it's been taken down from YouTube, but that's over there now in the ad-free in the Patreon. Daniel Uhlfelder, who's this attorney. Well, what's going on? Why is that thing? I turned that on silent just a minute ago. Damn it. Okay, here we go. Anyway, bunch of content there. And I put up the, a while back, December 30th. I put up the complaint by the Attorney General, Denise George, down in the Virgin Islands, where she's suing J.P. Morgan Chase in Manhattan, civil suit, and demand for a jury trial. We'll be talking about that later on tonight, but if you want to read the entire complaint that's up there, I think I was one of the first people to put it out there and distribute that publicly. Coming up after this tonight, I have Daniel Ufelder, the Attorney General of the state of Florida, and we're going to be talking about DeSantis's deplorables. So we have that. Then we have our fellow there, Arturo Tafori from Mexico, coming back to talk about the Q conspiracy. He's from the website conspiracydistillery.com. So that's a part 2. And then I have tomorrow, I'm interviewing Professor Lilly, who actually wrote the white paper. That's a peer-reviewed white paper on QAnon phenomena. That's coming up tomorrow. I'll be taping with her. Got a bunch of stuff lined up I'm going to be recording and working on. Just got so much lined up. It's crazy. Now, I'm not sure about how the audio is because I've been gone all week. We had to take a little road trip around the state of Florida. And this is the first time I put the headphones on and talked into the microphone, and it's really loud. It's really loud in my ears. So I'm not sure what's going on. But if there's anybody in the chat room can tell me if there's a problem with the audio, I'll just quit. I won't do the show tonight. I'll go to bed. Take it out. I'm exhausted. Okay. So there's a ton of stuff in the news this week, and I'm going to try and help you out here with some clarifications. Let's see. Where do we start? Where do we start? Let's start with the situation down there in the Virgin Islands. Now, when I saw this complaint against J.P. Morgan Chase, this lawsuit, which is a civil lawsuit, by the Attorney General of the Virgin Islands, Mrs. Denise George, okay? And I was really impressed. And I says, you know what, this is the most important news of this week. It's really, as far as Epstein stuff goes, I think it's one of the most important news or developments in the past year. Now, there's a little bit of confusion because Brad Edwards, one of the notorious Epstein attorneys representing the plaintiffs in the Epstein litigations, filed some litigation in November representing two of Epstein's survivors, and he sued Deutsche Bank and J.P. Morgan Chase, basically with the same theory behind the Attorney General case there in the Virgin Islands. So now what happens is, okay, I believe it was filed on the 30th, and then like not even a couple of days later, the governor down there, Albert Bryan, basically fired Denise George. Okay, now first let's get into this. Now, the thing is, one of the most important things people need to understand is that the woman who is now the acting Attorney General in the Virgin Islands is a woman named Carol Jacobs, whose name is on the same paperwork too as well. She's been working on all these Epstein cases all along as well. Now, I've talked to both of them. I've dealt with both of them, and I would have no problem with Carol Jacobs running the Attorney General's office down there. There's no problem with that whatsoever. Now, there seems to be some reporting, some by Business Insider, that the motivation for the Governor Bryan to dismiss the former Attorney General, Denise George, was because he was blindsided by the litigation. Now, I don't have any first-hand information on this, but I will tell you this. Just because Business Insider says that doesn't mean that that's accurate. I've dealt with Business Insider. Some of the information that Business Insider has reported they've gotten from me, not on this particular instance, but in other Epstein stuff. Business Insider went to my website and then bought the 24-page letter about the Clinton Foundation. So just because you see a clear, I've been going around there. First of all, we went on this trip, so I couldn't, when all this hit the fan, I was on the road and I couldn't talk about it. And people are sending me links. They're sending me, Biden flew down there and shut down the investigation. Did you see this, Ed? He was down there. Okay. Good. And I'm like, yeah, guys, everybody calm down, you know. And I says, well, you know, Carol Jacobs is a good prosecutor as well. She's fine to prosecute this case. You know, it's not like he brought in some shill. And people, oh, Ed, look at this Business Insider. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. So, you know, and then people are telling me this stuff about how Biden went down there and shut down the investigation. Now, because I'm at a when people tell me these things, these theories, okay, I'm at a distinct disadvantage because I got to rely on the facts. I can't just say, oh, look at this. It looks so suspicious. This must be what happened. And then, you know, right away, so-and-so was suicided. You know, like do you make these declarations just because something seems suspicious that you have to assume the worst and jump to conclusions? And I just can't do that. I can't do that even for fun. If I wanted to do that, just sitting around, you know, having a beer, you know, I don't just, this is what happened, make it up, you know. This has to be it, okay? Now, a couple of things. The timing with Biden going down there just doesn't line up. Biden's family has been going down to the Virgin Islands for a Christmas vacation for years and years and years before he was vice president. So this has been going on a long time. This particular trip to the Virgin, he didn't go the past 2 years because of COVID, but this particular trip where he brought, by the way, he brought his daughter, his grandchildren, the whole family operation. This wasn't like a last second, let me fly down there and shut down this litigation. It could be. It's possible. You know, because he did disappear down there for a couple of days, and he wasn't spotted again until he was on a golf course. So look, that's real. There is some suspicion. There's something there to look up and follow up on. But this business that somehow in the middle of the night Biden heard about this lawsuit and flew down to Virgin Islands to put a stop to it is just insanity. I got to notice. See, I get daily notifications on the whereabouts and the daily schedule for the president, for the vice president. I get all of Trump's press releases and stuff like that. So I have access to this stuff because I'm working press. I am real live working press. Okay, on real live, real radio stations with call letters and numbers and everything, FCC license, the whole deal. Okay? So I'm a little bit of a disadvantage. Some guy just went out and started a YouTube channel or a podcast. Potty. One of these potties out there. So I received notification that Biden will be in the Virgin Islands for Christmas, way back in December 14th, okay, is when we got that notice. And you get all kinds of stuff. Okay, Jill Biden's doing a speech today. Oh, Jill Biden just did the speech, and here's what she said. The room was half full. You know, all this, you get all this kind of stuff. I don't even read 10%. So I had to go back and look for this. It's not like I saw it and cared. You know, but now that we look back, we can see. So, one, this is not the end of the world. As far as I know, this litigation has not been withdrawn. We've only had the removal of Denise George. You want to know what? There is a potential possibility that I would return to work for the Virgin Islands again, the prosecutor's office down there, under these circumstances. If things were being run differently down there, I'd be happy to. Well, no, I wouldn't be happy to. I still have issues. Okay. So, one, it's not the end of the world because they removed one prosecutor and replaced her with her deputy prosecutor, okay, who was involved in this same exact litigation. It's not like they were opposing strategies or opinions. They worked together on this. Two, this whole business about Biden flying down there to shut down the investigation. Like I said, he was missing a couple of days down there. It's possible that he put his thumb on the scale, but it was a pre-planned trip. He's been doing this trip for 20 years, way back before he was vice president. This is nothing new. He brought his whole family with him. So all these immediate things. And the confusion between the two lawsuits, these are two entirely separate lawsuits with Deutsche Bank and J.P. Morgan Chase. One is they're both in Manhattan, but one is a civil lawsuit for damages, and the other one is a state attorney general filing a civil lawsuit for damages and fines. That can also include fines. So it could just as easily be, folks, that some deal was made to get this the government lawsuit pulled, so there would be more money for civil plaintiffs. So you can't just jump to conclusions in these kind of things. It's just not the way you want to do it. Which brings me to another matter. Okay. Oh, by the way, how is the audio? Are we okay? Oh, okay. I think the next big fun thing. Let's have a little fun. Okay, we don't always need to be. It's this whole business with this trying to elect Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House. This is, you watch this, like what has become of just competency, not just in government but everywhere. It seems like we've elected all these people with big Twitter followings, and they're just a bunch of clowns and self-promoters and hucksters. And, this guy George Santos, who created his whole imaginary life, you see him sitting next to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like, no one else will talk to this guy. No one else wants to give this guy the time of day. People are shooing him away, walking away from him. And you'll take one glance at this guy, you can see he's got problems. Okay? With that goofy smile, the chubby face, the ill-fitting suit. How this guy made it to Congress, God, in 2023. It's just a nightmare. But we have this situation. We have a couple of basically freshman representatives. Boebert, Matt Gaetz, frat boys, clowns, who have taken one branch of the government hostage with being unwilling to cooperate and follow their party's leadership, So it's fascinating. A couple of things I can tell you on this here, because you got Boebert, who's just soaking up all this attention. And you can see her sitting next to Gaetz. And if you look at their body language and their familiarity with each other, there appears to me to be some kind of a physical attraction between these two. There's some kind of chemistry going on between these two. And so much so that they're both trying very hard to cover it up. Okay? Now, I've had information for the past year told to me by a source who knows what he's talking about that Lauren Boebert had an affair with Kevin McCarthy. And that information came from Kevin McCarthy's wife. Okay? So this isn't something like, we heard this from a doorman or something like that. This came from Kevin McCarthy's wife, told my source that they were having an affair. Okay? Now, this kind of makes sense, the bitterness of Boebert and McCarthy right now, because she's not supporting McCarthy. So I think that's important information that the audience should know. That it's not being talked about anywhere else. But this is something that's out there. Now, on CNN the other night, because McCarthy's making deals with everybody now. He's giving away all these great positions, these committees and stuff like that. And just, trying to buy his way into this office here. And at the beginning of the CNN report about this, they said, if this was a hostage negotiation, if Kevin McCarthy was negotiating with a hostage taker, that, he's already given away all of his juice, all of his negotiating power. So that's, and it was so funny. I was cracking up. I went into the other room and told Vic, they're comparing it to a hostage negotiation. By the end of that CNN report, they were openly saying that Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert were holding the Congress hostage. Which, just imagine the optics of these two holding Congress hostage on the eve of the anniversary of January 6th. Just mind-blowing. That no one even thinks of this kind of thing. Now, today there was another development where sleazy Matt Gaetz, by the way, Matt Gaetz has his problems coming up, okay? I know for a fact that there is an article, the last I heard it's 11,000 words, with some very damaging information about Matt Gaetz, about his college days, about other activities. Again, I'm convinced it's all true. But the thing is, that's still hanging around the corner. Now, this morning, Matt Gaetz starts making a speech about how he doesn't find Kevin McCarthy to be pure. right? And just, you got to think, man, the whole 35 Republicans walked out of the Congress. Couldn't stand there and watch this guy. See, all these allegations about Matt Gaetz with these teenage girls, everybody knows it's true, okay? It may not be enough to get the guy convicted. So, well, he's never been convicted. But the thing is, when you're working with somebody, you hear these allegations. His best friend just got arrested for it. There's another guy associated with him in DeSantis who just did a suicide over similar allegations. So you see this sleazy frat boy. This has been his whole lifestyle, his whole life. And those Venmo payments, all this stuff. There's buddies in prison for these kind of allegations. So you can't, hey, listen, when there's smoke, there's fire. And for this guy to be standing up and telling secrets, revealing negotiations that are going on in secret, and questioning other people's purity, when this sleazebag, and he just looks so smarmy with his slicked back hair, you know, and he's just like lecturing these people that have really accomplished things in their life. Just so disgusting. And that's really was a deal breaker and a turning point in this whole controversy of this incompetent, inept Kevin McCarthy trying to get, and it's just the incompetent Republicans just trying to elect their leader when they're the ones in power. You know, they win a majority in the House and they can't even elect a leader. Just pathetic, man. Just pathetic. Let me see how we're doing on time here. Okay. 20 minutes. So on with AOC. I wish I could see this. Oh. Okay. Well, today is the anniversary of January 6th. All right. Oh, you know what? Real quick, let me get into this. Biden did a speech the other day where it was talking about immigration. I think it's called Title 42, and the policy of people refugees presenting themselves to people at the border, you know, seeking amnesty. Seeking amnesty. Yeah. Now, really bizarre, okay? Because there is no doubt in my mind it was supposed to be a live speech by President Joe Biden, and I got to tell you, it looks to me like the audio was dubbed in. He was standing there moving his lips, but that the audio was pre-recorded in some kind of a way. It definitely wasn't Biden's usual old man voice. He wasn't stuttering, he wasn't stammering, he wasn't repeating himself, he wasn't confused. Look, check this out. Now, Kamala Harris is standing in the background, and she's looking all weird too, man. Like, she's just looking all nervous. Okay, like something's going on. Go back and check out that video of that speech. I know nobody watches this guy's speeches. They're so boring. But go back and check that out, because there's definitely something there to that. Okay, this may be a new, again, a turning point with Mr. Biden there, that he's just become so old and feeble that this is a new tactic to try and put him out there in public. And I guess staggering around the stage is getting lost. Okay, what the heck is that? That's not what I want. Ali Alexander. Do you know who that is? I want to get the exact quote for it because it's pretty good. Ali Alexander was the first guy who had the permits to do the whole Stop the Steal thing there, January 6th, in conjunction with Roger Stone and all these characters there, right? Now, he's come out with this quote. In the coming days, I'm going to reveal that Marjorie Taylor Greene, in my summation, and the summation of lawyers, committed a crime. Okay? That crime is going to be handed to the state of Georgia, and the state of Georgia will decide whether they adjudicate that crime. He meant prosecute that crime or not. The House Ethics Committee and House Rules must expel Marjorie Taylor Greene when this evidence comes to light. then he's going on, man. I will not suffer. Listen to this. I will not suffer this harlot. I will not be taught vows and loyalty commitment from a whore. Whoa. Now, she just did file for divorce, or her husband filed for divorce from her recently, and that's kind of just dropped off the news. And by the way, it's really interesting, too, because the way she won her office is her opponent, spouse, filed for divorce. That's how she got in there to begin with. But there's all kinds of story about her when she was, because she's a gym owner. Okay, she owned a couple of gyms, and they were very poorly managed, and she was sleeping with the managers of these gyms. The tabloids went to these men that she was sleeping with, cheating on her husband there, and they asked them about it. None of them denied it. All they said is, anything she touches turns to crap. Stay away from her. I don't want anything to do with her. I don't want to talk about her. I didn't want to know her. So she can't even have a decent affair without leaving bad. Yeah. And a lot of chit-chat in the chat room about difficult things. Oh. Yeah, how is the audio? Because it sounds funny in my headset. Okay. Next notes. Dolly Alexander, man. I'm going to keep my eye out for that. He's a shady character to begin with. Oh, boy. Okay. Andrew Tate. I want to talk about Andrew Tate. I don't want to do it right off the bat. Let me see. Do I want to? Okay, let's go get into Ray Epps. Because today is the anniversary of January 6th. Interesting, too. It's just so amazing. Because if you look at Trump's tweets from that day, he's telling the rioters, don't fight with Capitol Police. They are on our side. Now, you can't get any more direct than that. I've been saying all along that the cops were complicit in that attempted coup. There was a lot of New York City cops in that crowd. There was a lot of Florida cops in that crowd. But Washington, D.C. police, and you see these people, Katie Turner on TV, saying, I watched this last year, and we were saying, where are the police? Where are the police? The police were in on it. And then at the second time, we said, oh, they worked so hard to defend us. They were waving people on into the building. Another thing, too, they said that the reinforcements came from New Jersey before Maryland and Virginia and D.C. police brought in reinforcements, and before National Guard were brought in. And it came out last week, too, that local generals who live in Washington and live in that area, rather than send help to the Capitol to defend the Capitol, sent security teams to their own homes to protect their wives and their children, who were not under attack. But it goes to show you that they thought the possibility was there, that this was such a serious coup attempt that they could be coming under assassination or hostage taking with their families. That's how serious all this was, And you still see people saying, well, it's Nancy Pelosi's fault because she didn't call security. Just the surface fantasy land talk. We'll get into that whole thing with Andrew Tate, because the whole Andrew Tate thing is just bizarro fantasy. People just see these short little clips of videos and they think, I don't know what they think, but it's just so bizarre. But one thing that I get hit with all the time, Ed, what about Ray Epps? How come you never talk about Ray Epps, right? And the theory is that Ray Epps was some kind of an undercover FBI agent who was stirring up the crowd, causing them to attack the Capitol, because in order to make Trump supporters look bad. Like, they can't do it on their own. And how come we never talk about how come Ray Epps wasn't arrested when he's on camera urging people to storm the Capitol? Now, what they failed to... First of all, I have talked about Ray Epps. I interviewed Tasha Stewart and her son, the son and the ex-wife of Stuart Rhodes, who was the head of the Oath Keepers, who was just recently convicted. Now, by the way, in his defense, he tried to use that theory in his defense, that there were provocateurs in the crowd or inciting the crowd that he had nothing to do with. But Ray Epps was Oath Keepers. He ran Arizona Oath Keepers. So just like all the other Oath Keepers that day who were inciting a riot and inciting a coup d'etat and helping people to take over the Capitol building, Ray Epps was doing it right along with them. Now, the question is, why hasn't he got arrested? It's Tasha Stewart Rhodes. I forget her last name. It might be Tasha Adams. But Stewart Rhodes' ex-wife, when I asked her about this, her theory is that he became an informant. He became a cooperating witness for the FBI after he went on the news, because he actually did call up the FBI tip line once he saw he was on the news. People were pointing him out, saying he was involved with this inciting this riot. The first thing he did was contact the FBI to make a deal. Now, a guy who heads the Arizona Oath Keepers, just think, first of all, one of the big problems between him and Stewart Rhodes was the money. Okay, he didn't want to kick up money to Stewart Rhodes. So this is the guy that was in charge of all the Arizona Oath Keepers' money. So he had their names, their addresses, their credit card numbers. He has all this information, which is extremely valuable to get yourself out of a jam if you don't want to be prosecuted. Now, this is all just simple, logical stuff. Now, it could be, okay, that the whole thing was a big trick by the FBI to make the Trump people look bad. But then you hear these other stories where the FBI can't even count on their own people because so many of them, their agents, are Trump supporters. And you hear that more than you do about this idea that the FBI is in cahoots with the Democrats and they're picking on Trump and doing everything they can to swing the election. The rank and file guys are Trump supporters. And it's the same thing in the Secret Service. It's the same thing in all these law enforcement and some of this military stuff, too. Although my experience was when we had that rally in Nevada, that Never Trump rally in Las Vegas Strip, which was very bizarre. A lot of weird things happened around that. With that MoveOn.org came in and hijacked the operation there. And suddenly police were stopping traffic so protesters could do photo ops. They blocked off a parking garage, people from leaving this parking garage, so protesters could shake this fence, in front of like the Trump property. And then the next day, even though no one saw a single sign, the rally organizers posted these signs of people holding up Hillary Clinton signs saying, "I am with her," which didn't happen there at the scene. And very bizarre stuff, too, about threats of people showing up armed to confront the crowd. But one thing is, it was held at the same location as the Marine ball, okay, where the Marines have their ball. It's like a gala, like a prom. And everyone's saying, "Oh, ho, 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 ho. You protesters, those Marines aren't fooling around. They're going to come out of there and beat you all up." But the Marines that people came into contact with were all anti-Trump. They were all minorities, and they didn't want to deal with Trump's racism and stuff like that, and his craziness. So they were not Trump supporters, which surprised even me. Okay. Yeah, I know. The audio is right. For some reason, it's not running stereo, and it's set to stereo. Let me see if I put left there. Oh, how's that? Is that better? Yeah, that's better. Okay. All right. See, but we'll get into this toward the end of the show, because I wasn't home for a week, and then that's what happened. I'm gonna have to take a look around this place, see what else might be fooled around with, because that's definitely an odd situation. Okay, Andrew Tate. Oh, hey, God, zooks. Get rid of that. Where do we even start with this? Okay. Let's start with this. Okay. You can go to the Law and Crime Network on YouTube. There's a video up there about the arrest of Andrew Tate from like a week ago. And it takes you to Andrew Tate's own website. Where on his website, he admits that at one point in his life, he was employed to get beautiful, rich women to fall in love with him, and then he would control them and tell them what to do and to support his lifestyle, or that they were somehow being passed on into prostitution or something like that. And that was his job, to lure the women in, have them fall in love with him, and then he could control them and dominate them and own them, okay, to benefit himself. Now, that's since been taken down from the website. There is no dispute, 100% no dispute, that Andrew Tate is a pornographer, okay? That he controls properties over there in Romania, the main compound, okay, where he lives, where is also the headquarters of this hustler university, okay? That's the one place. But then there's another home where that was already rated, but it's like $2,300 a month. But they said it's very expensive. It's a 3-bedroom house, and there's like 15 girls living in there. A lot of them speaking Americans, speak English, and that's the first address that was rated, where the people had women, young girls, had told their families in America they were being held against their will. Now, what neighbors are saying now about those properties is that, yeah, there's all these girls living in there. We all know what they're up to. They're all Tate's girls. They're forced, what the prosecutor says is the women were forced to produce material on a daily basis over extensive hours, and they had a schedule to follow. Okay? Now, in this latest instance, as well as the first instance, they've identified 6 victims of Andrew Tate. So there's 6 women ready to testify against Tate. Now, what you're seeing, if you go on Instagram, you go on YouTube, is Andrew Tate is in jail right now. Okay, they're holding him for 30 days. They've seized all his vehicles out of his home. They've seized his computers, his YouTube studio, all this stuff. Okay, now you're seeing on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok these videos from the first incident where they only held me for an hour, and now I am released. Okay, and I was swatted, and now it's all been proven false, and all this stuff that they're taking from the first arrest and now applying it to this arrest here like it's really happening right now. So you see all these comments saying, oh, look at this, he was never guilty, and he's been released already, ha 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 ha, you know, because I guess people just don't pay attention, you know. So there's this woman I know, way back when I was really into internet marketing and I was promoting my website to do those searches and stuff online, who was a search engine optimization person who hung out in some forums with me back in those days. And I blocked her back then because she was a right-wing nut. So she finds me again, and she posts this weird thing in defense of Andrew Tate. And I says, well, if you go to the Law and Crime Network and watch the video, he admits to doing this. There's images from his website where he talks about doing this. There's people around him accusing him of being a sex trafficker. See, because you got to remember, the neighbors are saying that in that home, the other home where the girls are kept, that was raided the first time, because the 2 American girls said that they're being held beyond their will. At night, there's traffic going in and out of there. All these men going in and out of there. The lights are on. They're up all night. So it's not just the OnlyFans that he's keeping all the money from, because these girls are telling me they don't keep any of the money. Tate gets all the money. The guy's a sex trafficker. That's what he does. He's a pornographer and a sex trafficker, and his other house is also a brothel. All right? That's it. And he doesn't deny this. In one of the interviews, he's saying, oh, the girls do all this stuff voluntarily. So all this stuff, there's no debate here. All this stuff, he's been arrested for it, okay? They've got a huge investigation. He was arrested, but wait. This guy was arrested on assault and rape back in 2015, okay? This is a pattern of behavior. One of the degrees in this hustler university is a pimping hoe degree, okay? Where he's getting like $15 a month or $30 a month from these stupid kids, and over there in Romania, now that because the press is besieged, descended on them, they're interviewing some of these kids, the 18-year-old kids who want to join Hustler University and have muscles and fancy cars, just like Andrew Tate. So they're giving him $25 a month, $30 a month. It's just ridiculous, ridiculous behavior here. So Andrew Tate, just keep an eye on this, man. Okay, by the way, too, two of the other people, they raided 6 properties in this most recent case. 2 of them arrested are Romanian women, all right? So this whole idea that this is misogyny and that they're getting even with him because of Greta Thunberg and all this, and he speaks out the truth against the matrix, so they would need to silence him. They arrested these 2 no-name women, too, okay? Nobody knows who these women are. And it's just like the Maxwell case, where these women are used to procure other women. Okay, and that's just how that stuff works. So hopefully we'll get some reality out of this. Oh, boy. Okay. That's pretty much all my notes on things in the news this week. Okay? And we covered the Epstein, Virgin Islands stuff. We covered Ray Epps being an oath keeper who encouraged the insurrection, and then looks like he made a deal to avoid prosecution. The affair between Lauren Boebert and Kevin McCarthy, and now her little romance with Matt Gaetz, and the walkout that went on there today. What a nightmare that is, man. And then Andrew Tate. We covered a Law and Crime Network. Be sure and check that out. The Pimping Hoe Degree and Biden's weird immigration speech, where it appeared to me that the audio was dubbed in. Okay? And then Ali Alexander, who will not suffer this harlot, I'll have you know. Okay? But let's see. What's the biggest thing I did all week long is after New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, Vic's still in town, and she's not leaving. We're leaving here about the 13th. I'm driving her back up to D.C. Okay? And so we decided on the spur of the moment, let's take a ride down to Key West. I think it was New Year's Day we drove down there. Now, I've never been to Key West before, all right? And it didn't look that far on the map. It's like a 7-hour drive from where I am. And normally we take 75, which is called the Alligator Alley, to get from here to Miami or to get to the east coast of Florida. But this time we took 41, which is a little more scenic. We saw a bunch of alligators. We saw a bunch of those one of those swamp tours, you know, those swamp boats taking the swamp tours and stuff like that, things like that. So, and we drove through a lot of small towns. So it was definitely a cooler ride, but it took way more than 7 hours. There was a lot of traffic and stuff, and there's only one road in and out. You know, the Highway 1 is just like a one-lane road, and you got to pass people. It's really tricky. And so we were driving. It starts getting dark out there. And they got these deer crossings and deer preserves and these panther crossings. So, and then you see there's roadkill everywhere. Okay, you don't go, man, 2 miles without seeing some, pretty serious sized roadkill. So I got a new car, and I'm getting a bull bar, like a big bumper guard in the front. Like you see the cops use those for the pit maneuvers, I'm getting that installed Tuesday. But I'm driving now, and I had already hit a deer. I hit a deer in Georgia last year, and it's very traumatic. Plus, it does a lot of damage to the car. I don't want to do any damage to the car. So I'm driving, I'm looking. I see a deer's lights, hit I pulse light. I was slowing down. I was swerving. And listen, it was a really, really stressful drive, but just so much fun to hang out with Vic. This is pretty much the last time we're going to be able to do this. She's got she was approved for that big internship. She got that. Okay, it doesn't pay a lot, but it's really big with connections. I'll give you an example. One of the people she interned with a couple of years ago is now working the head of communications for the AFL-CIO. And this is someone who Victoria had better connections, better resume, and stuff like that. So she's really, in a couple of years from now, this kid's going to be really hooked up. Great job, and then making, a real difference in the world. So, one of the last few times we have a chance to do one of our little road trips together, because she's going to graduate soon and then pretty much be on her own life. So, we went down there to Key West, right? and we saw I went to the Hemingway house, the Hemingway mansion. Now, when I did a lot of research on this before we went down there, and on the website, it seems like it's not going to be real crowded. Like you can spend the whole day just hanging out and checking things out, and there's a guided tour. It's a lot more touristy than I would prefer. And it seems also, too, that the people leading the guided tour, because we met a couple of people that in the tour that were writing books about Hemingway or, I guess, doing podcasts or whatever. And they weren't getting the right answers from these tour guides. One thing we found out, though, and that I found very interesting, is one of Hemingway's wives, he was married 5 times, and one of his wives was able, because she came from a rich family, was able to purchase that house and rebuild the whole house. I saw his writing room, which is above like a barn. It was a stable, is what it was. And downstairs they'd keep the horses, and upstairs was where the hay loft was. But they converted that to a writing room, a little property downstairs. Like five structures on the property, big homes. And, there was like a catwalk. We could walk from one home to the other. Speaking of cats, there's like 50 cats on the property. And half of them have 6 toes, and that there's 2 of them that have 7 toes. And these cats are direct descendants of Mr. Hemingway's cat. But this wife of his who funded this home and the renovation of this home also funded his African safaris, which are very, prominent in the Hemingway, lore, the myth of the great Hemingway. Really, did have an awesome life. He fought the Spanish Revolution, the Spanish-American War. Sport in the war against the fascists in Spain. Okay, fishermen. Everybody knows these fishermen stories. You see these pictures, these home photos of him with these huge swordfish. That they were saying that you can't even get those size fish in those waters anymore. They've been all fished dry. And this wife of his came from a very wealthy family, and the family fortune was the Pfizer pharmaceutical family fortune. That's where Hemingway got all this money to do all this stuff, from his rich wife and her rich father, who was part of this Pfizer company and the Pfizer fortune. So I found that very interesting. I'd never heard that before. So that was part of our trip down there to Key West. The granddaughter, one of them played the girlfriend of Woody Allen in the movie Manhattan. I forget which Hemingway it was. And she was in the movie. She was a high school kid. Now, I met the model in real life who was that girl. I tried to get her to come on the show. We had a very long telephone discussion and some chats back and forth. She also dated, she worked for Jeffrey Epstein. She dated Woody Allen. She dated Carlos Castanedas. She had a long romance with him. She talked about him more than anybody else. She didn't think she was a victim of Epstein. She also, I think she worked as an assistant for Robert Evans, the movie producer. So all these characters have all this interest in teenage girls. And she didn't believe she was a victim. She does not see herself as a victim at all in her relationship with these much older men. But yeah, so Hemingway's daughter played that part of this woman in real life. Then we drove to Miami. I haven't been in Miami in so long. We went to a film festival there a couple of years ago. Then we tried to do another one, and we booked all the wrong dates, and it was a big, big mess. I was so disappointed. And I don't even think they'll even let me go back there to that film festival again. So we went to Miami, and we found this great hotel right by the beach in Miami Beach. It caters to gay men. But, they got to look at anybody. They got to let anybody stay there. So me and Vic stayed there. And we had a great time down there in Miami. Got some great Cuban food, some great breakfasts, and then spent the day down there and then drove back. Through that 41. And then we went to Madeira. What is that? one of these little islands on the east coast, or the west coast of Florida, down below Venice, which was where Daniel Hopsicker lives. And we popped in there for lunch on our way back. So we had a nice, long, leisurely drive around Florida. Did a lot of sightseeing, a lot of fun places we visited. I don't do some work on the phone, but nothing I could work on, no interviews or nothing I could do on the computer, but just I found out an attorney for this guy. It's really uphill. It's going to be a really uphill fight for this fellow to get out of this. Let me see. I wonder if that would work. I don't know. So then we're driving to D.C. I'm going to go through the Blue Ridge Parkway. If anybody knows anything like a nice place to stay around that area, Blue Ridge Parkway, I'm going to be going through there. I know there's some hiking and some waterfalls we want to check out. I've never done it before. I've always taken 95 up and down, but this time we'll be doing that. I'm going to be taping an interview with this fellow about the hermit. It was about this guy who lived in the woods all by himself for many, many years. And the guy wrote a book about it, about this hermit. So that's coming up. I've got a whole chunk of stuff coming up here, you know. But that's about it as far as I can think. If anybody has any questions in the chat room, I can answer them for you maybe. Or, you know, oh my God, this picture of this George Santos with this Marjorie Taylor Greene, man, it's just incredible. This guy looks so crazy. How did we get to a point where we've elected these crazy people, man, into office like never before? In 100 years, we've never had the House held hostage by a guy who's a legitimately accused child sex offender, drug user, as a teenage boy, adopted a teenage boy. You know, what is going on? And there's other things, too, that should be coming out in this article. It's not my story, so I can't tell it until they break it. But I'm going to have the first interview with them. Bad lip reading. Well, you got to check that out. All right, guys. I'm exhausted. Coming up after this will be, okay, I'll leave it up to the chat room. He loved cats. Yes, Hemingway loved cats. And anybody, you're down in Key West, man, I recommend. There's a lighthouse, too, right across the street. That's a great visit. You know who we ran into? We ran into one of the couples from 90 Day Fiancé down there in the lighthouse. It's this guy, I forget his name. I think his name is Tim, that people always assume he's gay because, you know, he went down to meet this Latin woman and he never had sex with her. And he's with this other woman now, and she has a little kid. Man, this guy's no parent. I'll tell you this, man. Okay, it wasn't his kid. It was the girlfriend's kid. And there was a spiral staircase on this lighthouse. There was 80 steps to this freaking lighthouse. And he had this little 4 or 5 year old boy in the front walking down this lighthouse first. Crazy. And you know how I am, man. I'm neurotic about things like that. Okay? So anyway, we're out of time. Coming up after this, I don't know if I'm going to play first the QAnon Conspiracy Distillery, Turo Tafoya, part 2 of our discussion on QAnon, or you can have a former candidate for Attorney General of Florida, Daniel Ufelder, talking about the DeSantis' deplorables, and these are all people he knows. Let's vote. I want to vote. Vote as a meeting. Okay. All right, guys. So you've lost your chance to vote. That's it. In the spirit of January 6th, I've taken away your votes. I've removed your ability to vote, and you can no longer vote on which show I will play. I'm going to have to surprise you. Okay, I'm going to surprise you. Oops. Q. Okay, I'll play Q. I'll say I'm easy. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I'll put on the outro for a couple of seconds and we'll get out of here. Good night. Thank you so much for coming by.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Before Epstein was the Franklin cover-up. Before that, the Finders. And long before that, the Cleveland street scandal. Pedogate Primer is a concise intro and overview of a growing child abuse epidemic worldwide. It features shocking instances of institutionalized and organizational pedophilia throughout history. Churches, cults, the world of arts and entertainment, the government, NGOs, charities, and major corporations are all complicit or culprits in many instances. Pedogate Primer delves into material that for many may seem like the stuff of conspiracy theories. For this reason, the book draws on academic resources, declassified documents, and other reliable sources, and steers clear of conjecture. Such shocking true stories need no embellishment.
If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law. The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119.